Surprising number of changes for the 2025R, 1025R, and 1023E for model year 2025. We're going to go through all of them and explain how it might impact your decision and, well, the 1025R world overall. Let's get started. I'm going to break this up a little bit. First, we'll talk about the choices that you have. There's a couple of new configuration choices this year, and then we'll talk about items that you will actually see and notice. Then we'll talk about some items that you may or may not notice. And lastly, we'll talk about the impacts to you over all of these changes and whether it makes a difference on whether you should either trade your 1025R or which one you should buy if you're looking at one now. The biggest new choice is a deluxe operating station. That's in either the cab or the open station model. It consists of an air ride seat and a USB charger. Now those things might seem totally separate, but I suspect they're sharing the same electric circuit. So it's kind of like, hey, we can get this USB charger as long as we've already got the air seat wired up. So yeah, those are available. $634 upgrade on either the cab or the open station model. Air ride seat. We've wanted one for years. Now this one may have been available last year, model year 24, I'm not sure, but now you can choose whether you want to get the single point connector from the factory or not. You can choose it when you select your factory installed loader. They offer one with the 4-port single point connector and one without. Now my preference is to get the 6-port single point connector for use with grapple and any third function. That's available currently from discounthydraulichose.com. It's a little more expensive. The factory option is $700, roughly $700 now. The discount hydraulic hose version is over $1,000, $1,083 I believe. I'm working to try to get that price reduced. It may change vendors. Check the pinned comment. If there's a pinned comment there, we will list any updates we can to where that kit is available and if we can do any better on the price. But even then, $1,100 as compared to $700 to get you all 6 ports, I think it's worth it. If you choose to go that approach, I would choose not to get the 4-port on your new tractor. That'd be the simplest way. Now in the you will notice it category, I'm going to list what I think is the biggest news first, and that's that we're going to get at least one more PTO horsepower with some changes happening in the hydraulic system. The engine's the same, the transmission's the same, no changes in power there, but through some efficiency improvements that we'll talk about in a little bit, you're going to see a little bit more PTO horsepower. I don't know if we'll notice it. We'll just have to see when we actually get one. The biggest visual difference will be a new LCD display right here on the dash. This one's been here since 2011. They haven't changed it since the original 1026R. That's a long time to go with a consistent component like that. And so, just quite frankly, they're dealing with obsolescence at this stage. This is using some old technology, and they almost have to upgrade it or it's going to start costing more and more and more to keep this old display in operation. For example, they're going to 32-bit communication with the entire tractor. In order to work with the display, they have to upgrade it. My understanding is that there won't be any new features immediately visible in this display. I'm not positive on that, but they couldn't name any. However, there may be some coming later. Maybe some new sensors on the tractor that they'll be able to enable on the display later. The 25 model does not come with a cat, thankfully. I talked about a Bluetooth-enabled smart connector several years ago on this channel, and it can plug into the diagnostic port somewhere on the tractor here. It didn't provide much on the original 1025R. I think it may provide some more features now that we've got the newer equipment mobile app, and it is included as a part of the standard configuration on all 1025Rs, 2025Rs, and in fact, it's included in all models now of the compact utility tractor line except the 1023E and the 3025E. Those are the only two models that will not have the built-in Bluetooth capability. There's several features in there you can see, the number of hours and the current RPM of the tractor, and just there's some features there that might be interesting. You can see codes. I don't know how many codes and all that you'll be able to see on this 1 Series tractor, but when you get up into the 2 and 3 and 4 Series tractors, you can see a lot more of the diagnostics information via Bluetooth on your phone. Now, the biggest changes might not even be noticeable, certainly to a first-time buyer, but they probably will make a big difference in the long term. Deere's modifying the frame. They're going with a different frame on this tractor, not because there was any issue with the frame, but because they're trying to optimize the hydraulic lines and kind of sort some of this out so that there's better compatibility between the 23E and the 225R tractors. One side effect of the frame change is a little bit of incompatibility with older mower decks. So if you happen to have a new 2025 model year tractor and you're wanting to put an older mower deck on it, so anything from mid-2020 onward, you'll have to make some adaptation there. Other than that, it's still possible to make that compatible. Your dealer will have information on how to make that change. We will, hopefully at some time in the future here, once we see and get a hold of a new tractor. So these optimizations are meant to make the system more compatible across the 3 tractors, as I mentioned, but it's also meant to be more cost effective, and that's going to actually reduce the end user price. Sometimes when we talk about cost reduction, we're cheapening. In this case, that's not what's going on. They're moving the 3rd function valve that's right now under the tractor. Now it will be installed right beside the loader SCV, which is under the joystick. So they call it a stackable valve on the new tractors, on all 3, the 23E and the 225Rs. That 3rd function will be there, and that'll make it much easier for the dealer or for you to install the OEM Deere 3rd function kit. The functions should be the same, but it will just be simpler to install. If you've dealt with this in the past, you know that the installation cost, or if you do it yourself, the installation time to install that 3rd function kit was significant. They're referring to this increased compatibility as a hydraulic highway. I like that name. That rings with me. The idea is to make Power Beyond kits and 3rd function kits, other kits for, say, hydraulic mower deck lift, these options, to make them all consistent across all 3 tractors. And by doing that, it should make them less expensive, right? They don't have to carry as many parts. There's going to be more hard lines and less hoses. That should create a little bit more space and maybe a little bit better reliability, although we haven't had that much problem with the hoses. But typically it is more reliable to have hard lines than it is flexible hoses. Arguably, the biggest change to the 2025 model year tractors is the hydraulic pump. On prior tractors, we have a single pump, and then we have a divider valve that divides the flow between the steering circuit and the implement circuit. As of the 2025 model year, they have put this in a tandem pump, they call it. Basically, it serves as 2 separate pumps, right? Probably off the same shaft right down here where the hydraulic pump is, but each circuit will be totally independent. This removes the need for that splitter or priority divider valve that they have, and it will reduce some of the parasitic loss with the hydraulic system, and that is where they're gaining the 1 horsepower. They didn't mention any differences in hydraulic flow for the implement, so I'm assuming it's going to be identical, 3.5 gallons a minute to the implement as the prior generation, but it should be more efficient. Who knows, it may even be a little quieter. So how does this impact us as users of these tractors? The horsepower increase comes to mind first. We might notice it, we might not. Given that I've been running Johnny Hex here with the turbo, and I can just, I can make a noticeable change, but that's like a 10 PTO horsepower change. And so 1 PTO horsepower, we might or might not notice. The Deere 3rd function kit will be cheaper and easier to install. That's obviously, we're going to notice that hitting our pocketbooks less overall, and I think we're going to see that even more broadly as time goes forward. I think the tractor is coming down a little bit in price for model year 25, though I don't have details on that and I cannot be sure. I think in the short term there'll be some confusion potentially about which kits you need for, say, Power Beyond or the third function kit, hydraulic lift options on the mower. I think that's going to be a little bit difficult, although Deere says they are providing the dealers a tool to make this easier for them to sort out. Apparently just select which tractor you have, which model year you have, and it will spell out exactly which kits are available. In the long term, it should make it easier, right? If we have consistent kits across the entire 1 Series and 2025R lineup, then it should be easier overall for us. So I think it's a good thing. In the long term, it just may cause some short-term pain. We'll get through it. I'll help you, I promise. The LCD display will look nicer, I'm sure. I don't have a picture that I can show you yet, although I did see a digital image of it and it looks nicer. But I don't know that it has any more function right now than the current LCD. Perhaps that will happen over time, but I don't think for right now it really matters which one you might choose. I do think we'll eventually see some obsolescence here, right? I'm sure Deere will buy a good stock of these so that they'll have parts for quite some time, but eventually we will run out of those older displays. Now, how many, how soon? You know, there's hundreds of thousands of these 1026R, 1025R, and the rest of these models out there. And you know they want to have LCD screens available for a long time. So I'm not too worried about that. And quite frankly, 14 years, that's an enormous amount of time to stick with the same display technology. So that should not be too big of an issue, but you always think about part obsolescence when somebody moves forward like this. The biggest impacts will likely be for third parties. I'm thinking of Hydros Plus. You know, all the changes that we've done for Johnny X here, specifically the hydraulic changes. I suspect Hydros Plus is going to have to work pretty hard to adapt to these new configurations. Now, he'll be able to do so. He's done it before, but that will be some work and maybe a little bit of confusion for a little time there. It may provide even more opportunity with the 2 separate pumps. But again, I think it's going to provide a little bit of challenge in the near term. Summit kits, for example, that are connected to the Power Beyond, I don't think that's going to be a problem. That's one of the reasons that I really worked hard to get those to be Power Beyond connected. We don't worry about the Power Beyond kit itself. You can get that from Deere, then get the Summit kit to add on behind that, and that keeps that compatibility. We don't have to worry about that. Of course, third function kits for the front end loader from third parties may change, right? Where they connect to the loader valves will have to change. There'll have to be, potentially at least, different areas to connect, and everybody will have to sort through that. Now, specifically on the Hydros Plus kit, he doesn't have to worry about that divider valve that was already there, and probably that means he won't have to add his second divider valve that is in the higher performance kits now. So again, this may actually be less expensive and less complex going forward. We'll just have to see how Hydros Plus handles this. So if you've been shopping recently, should you wait for the 2025 model year, or should you go ahead and purchase a 23 or 24? Honestly, I don't think it matters. There is oodles of support for these existing machines. The new 1 horsepower improvement, I don't know if we'll even notice that. I'm glad it's there. You know, I'm glad they're making it more efficient. I love to see improvements, but I don't know that we're really going to notice that. In the short term, if you buy one of the first 2025 models, you'll not be able to get some third-party kits, right? Some things won't fit, and you know, you just may have some challenges there. So that's a reason to maybe stick with the 2024 and earlier just a little longer. In the long term, I don't expect any issue there either. So by the time we get 6 or 8 months into this new model, I don't think there'll be any problem at all. So work with your dealer, price out the options you want. If you want an air seat, that's a good reason to get a 2025 model. Other than that, I think you've got total flexibility here. I don't think it really matters. Well, that's a wrap on the model year 25 changes. I'd like to hear your comments below on what you think. We'll try to see if we can get one of these tractors as soon as possible. I don't know if we'll be able to do so. We'll just see what we can do, and we'll keep you informed as best we can. If we learn more, either from dealer comments below or from your comment, anybody else, we will keep you informed. That's what we try to do. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Now the biggest changes, I don't really think I need the back end of him showing to you. Where'd the cat go? I did too.